Lesson 32, Iota and Upsilon. So at this point, you know all the vowels in the Greek alphabet, except for two, and we're introducing those two here in this lesson. And those are iota and upsilon. Iota is not too hard because it looks like the letter I, and in fact, that's where we get the letter I, right, Catherine?
Yes, exactly. Iota is the root of our letter I, and that's why it looks like I in both upper and lower case.
So this one's not too hard. Really, the main thing we need to talk about is the fact that this is one of those vowels that could be long or short. And so I've displayed a couple of iotas here, one with a macron and one with a breve or breve, just so you can see what they look like.
And one of the things that is important to remember with iota is that in the lowercase, unlike I in English, there's no dot above the iota.
Well, that's a good point to bring up. So the way we're going to pronounce the letter iota in this book is like the E in feet. So we're always going to pronounce it like that, regardless of if it's a long iota or short iota. The only difference will be the duration.
So the pronunciation does not change, even though the duration of the vowel will change depending on whether it's a long vowel or a short vowel. But either way, it's going to have the same sound.
Now, you may hear some Greek teachers pronounce a short iota like I, like the I in, say, bin or tin. And that's okay. You'll just occasionally hear that. But in this particular book, we're always going to pronounce it like the E in feet. So that's just a note for you to keep in mind.
And then we have our final vowel.
Yay!
Hooray!
So this can be confusing for beginning Greek students because in the uppercase, it looks like a Y, and then in the lowercase, it looks like a U. So Catherine, let's talk for a moment about the sound of this letter, because the way we tell students to pronounce it is a sound that they're not accustomed to making. We want it to be what's called a rounded vowel. And rounded, meaning that you round your lips when you say it. So you're going to form your lips into an O, but inside your mouth, you're going to say like the E in feet.
Yes, and that's not a sound that we really make in English.
So here's how it works. Say the E in feet, E, but then keep that same tongue position inside your mouth, but make your lips into an O. So it's going to sound like this. E, U.
E. Mm-hmm.
And so in some Greek textbooks, they say to mimic a French vowel sound, like if you see, EU in French, it has that same quality of sound. But again, they're using an example from a foreign language.
Right.
From French, because we don't have this sound in English. So for English speakers, you have to make a little bit of effort. Again, it's the E in feet, but you make your lips rounded, and it ends up sounding something like E.
Exactly.
And as we go along through the book, we'll be reminding you of this. But in the meantime, you can practice making this sound on your own. And Catherine, this letter can be long or short. Isn't that correct?
Yes. And again, just like with iota, the length or brevity of the vowel, i.e. whether it's long or short, does not affect the sound of the vowel. It affects the duration, how long you hold the vowel for. So a short upsilon may be just E, and then a long upsilon, E. But the sound, as you heard, does not change. It's just E either way.
So over the past few lessons, we've been building a chart that displays the different vowels of the Greek alphabet according to their vowel length. And so now that chart is full. We can look at the entire chart. Why don't we take a look at this chart and go over it in its fullest form here with all the vowels filled in. So this chart is divided into 3 rows. The top row is vowels that are always short.
Mm-hmm.
Second row is vowels that are always long. And the bottom row is vowels that could be long or short. They don't have a preset length like the others.
So we don't have to bother about macrons for the always short or the always long. But for the could be short or long, those are the ones that may have macrons or may not have macrons, depending on whether they're long or short.
Exactly. On the top row, epsilon and omicron do not need any kind of marking to signify their length or duration because they are always short. Epsilon is always short. Omicron is always short. There's no such thing as a long omicron or a long epsilon. The duration of the vowel is just baked into the vowel itself.
Right.
Then on the next line, with eta and omega, those are always long. There's no such thing as a short eta or a short omega. Again, the length of the vowel or the duration is just inherent within the letter itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's just baked into the letter. Again, there's no need to have any kind of external markings to clarify that.
Right.
But, Catherine, we have on the bottom row, alpha, iota, and upsilon, which could be short or long depending on what they're doing in a noun or perhaps in a verb. Later on, when you start studying a certain class of feminine nouns, known as the first declension, you're going to see the letter alpha sometimes short and sometimes long, right, Catherine?
Yes, and that will change what the endings of those nouns are going to look like, depending on whether the alpha is short or long in certain circumstances.
Okay, so epsilon and omicron are always short, eta and omega always long, alpha, iota, upsilon could be long or short. That's the big takeaway we want you to get from this lesson.